Welcome to the TREPX Podcast. TREP is short for entrepreneur. One of the most meaningful and rewarding, yet difficult challenges you can take on. The TREPX Podcast gives you actionable insights, real examples, and success X factors from experienced entrepreneurs as we are learning, living, and sharing in the exciting endeavor of entrepreneurship. Now here's your fellow entrepreneurial traveler and host, Mickey Dimming.
Hey, Ilan, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Mickey. Good to be here.
How are you doing today?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing really well. I was just sharing. As I look at your site, I feel like it's from the future. I like that a lot.
Thank you. Yeah, we wanted to go for like a kind of a different vibe than everybody else. We kind of wanted to go with like a cool, laid back, almost sort of like a surfboard or snowboard company, something like that.
Yeah, no, I think you pulled it off. It's cool. It just feels like, man, I'm exploring something cool. And so we're talking right now about Taktical. I want to hear all about the way you're helping businesses grow through that. But first, I think as a place to start, like, tell me about your entrepreneurial journey. Like, where did that start out? When did you know you were an entrepreneur and decided to, make that your journey?
Yeah, cool. So I actually come from an entrepreneurial family. My father, my uncles, my cousins, everyone's got their own business, which I think is not rare when you're in a family of immigrants, first generation American. And so immigrants are, statistically speaking, the most likely group to start their own business, mostly because you just can't get a job. And so I grew up in that kind of environment where the idea was you're supposed to make it on your own and don't rely on anybody else. When I was a kid, I was a huge nerd, like just a total geeky kind of tinkerer, and I learned how to like hack together websites, like by pulling. I did this thing where I would kind of copy code from other websites and slap them together in Macromedia Dreamweaver to like create new websites. And I started getting clients like father's friends or local stores, and I was like 15, 16 years old, like going around like selling $5,000 websites, which was like a huge amount of money for a kid. Mm-hmm. Then I went to college and tried out in finance, which went well for a little while until it didn't go well. And that was in 2008 when the crash happened. And I found myself sort of lost again. And that's when I started finding my way back to tech. And I had a startup idea with a friend, and I wanted to promote the startup idea online, but I couldn't afford an agency. I couldn't afford a consultant, right? These guys charge thousands of bucks, and I didn't have it. So I had to learn it on my own. So I kind of went on the internet. I started reading forums and blogs and started testing and messing around with different techniques to see what I could do to learn on my own. And I actually became a bit of a spammer at one point. I started, if you've ever dealt with like unwanted pop-up ad or email marketing, guys like me were doing that. And that stuff works, like you make sales, but it was like I was getting really good at having no budget, but being able to convert and make sales. And that's when friends started approaching me saying, hey, I see that you're doing this internet marketing thing. Would you consider doing something for our family business or something for my boss or whatever? And that sort of led to me opening up a one-man office in my local hometown of Long Island, which then grew after I had some successes to a New York City office in Soho. And then I've been kind of growing ever since and hiring staff and kind of building out the business from there, relying on success and referrals to lead me each to the next stage, right? Yeah. That's where we end up here.
That's cool. I have so many interesting things in that I really like, especially how you said, you kind of grew up with the mindset that like, I'm going to have to figure this out on my own. And then whenever things kind of broke down in 2008, that's really what you had. Nothing changed. You're like, I got to figure this out on my own. And so can you talk through that mindset? Like you kind of said, like with a family of immigrants, you were kind of wired that way. How did that help you as you kind of went through ups and downs? And did you always know, like, I'm going to run my own business?
I don't think I always knew. I definitely tried at some point to do things like being a salesperson, like a commission sales guy, which is almost like running your own business, except without all the other hassle of actually running a business. But I think that where that mindset comes from is this idea that a lot of people have is, especially people who enter the corporate world, they're looking for security, right? That's what everyone sort of wants. Like, you want a job with job security. Everyone talks about job security. And one thing that a lot of immigrants feel when they come here is that security is a facade. It's fake. Mm-hmm. It's it's the man behind the curtain, the Wizard of Oz. And so they don't rely on security. They say that the only person who I can ever rely on is me, and I can figure this out, and I can make business. And even if I could get a job, even if I wanted a job, I couldn't get one anyway because I'm an immigrant with no education and I can't speak the language. So the mindset is there that it's very, very possible, and especially when you come from a group of entrepreneurs, you see that certain kinds of people really do make it. Like, a large percentage of people maybe don't become billionaires, but a lot of people can feed their families through their own businesses. It's not impossible. And so your confidence level goes up when you grow up around that, and you can see that with your own eyes. Understanding that every problem can be kind of broken down into its component parts. One of the things that I learned, I think I read Elon Musk's biography recently, and I also read an article on how he thinks on a blog that I really love called waitbutwhy.com. It's really entertaining if you've never read it. And they break down the way he thinks, and essentially he thinks like a lot of entrepreneurs think, which is that all you have to do is figure out the component parts to a particular problem, and you can solve this problem. Like, nothing's impossible, right? Learning digital marketing and learning how people run ads and how people optimize and grow online businesses is not something that's impossible. It's just a matter of, okay, let me start from the beginning. Let me see exactly what are the platforms these guys use, and what are the methods they think will work, and what are the metrics that they're looking to prevent. And all you're doing is, looking at it as individual pieces, and you can then puzzle it together. And it's never really as overwhelming as people might allow themselves to think that it could be.
That's really intriguing. There's a couple of parts in that. I think that in your mindset was just like, number one, this can be figured out. I know that people can do it. And the other part was just kind of your willingness to sell that I'm hearing in that. Like, you have to, to make sales. And if you can make sales, you can, always have a business. So I'm curious to know, like, how that, has weaved throughout your journey, and especially now that, you're in that marketing space and helping people make the sales. And I think that a lot of people, that's one thing they miss. Like, I want to be an entrepreneur. But then when it comes to, really promoting well or selling well, it breaks down. Is that something that's been kind of a big part of your journey?
Yeah, for me, it's always been a matter. Like, I especially when I've seen like other people whose businesses they're trying to build a business. A lot of times people get caught in like this analysis paralysis, where they kind of allow themselves to get obsessed over perfecting the product or perfecting the website, or it's not ready yet, and he needs this, and I have to do this other thing, and they fall short of really the lifeblood of any business, which is, start selling now. And the reason you want to start selling now is because you will find those holes and those mistakes and those problems with your product or the messaging as you go through it. You'll get those complaints. You'll get people saying, I don't want this, and this is why. Like, one time I had a meeting with a company that I really wanted as a client, and they didn't hire me. And I asked them why. I said, for my own knowledge, could you let me know? And she goes, you're too small. You're too small. You're one guy with one other person. You are not big enough to handle this account. And I realized, well, there's only one way I can get accounts like that is to look big enough, because I certainly can't afford to be big enough. So that's when I started creating fake email addresses and CCing other people in my company who didn't really exist. And I started doing things like adding team members who were outsourced team members, people who were like maybe working in another country at a discount rate, or maybe part-timers or interns. I would add them on the team page of the website to make it look like we had a bigger team. And that actually did work. People trusted us more, and then we actually did hire real team members who were able to deliver and stuff like that. So I think people sometimes are afraid of selling. And that's something that is something that's really, really important for any business. It's the lifeblood, and nothing else really matters. You could have the worst product in the world. You could have, a BlackBerry or Windows 98, and if you sell, you're a big business.
Yeah, that's great. I like the way you said that, and that a lot of times, it takes that extra effort to do it, and it takes the feedback. If you never asked what was the reason, you wouldn't have been able to figure that out. And so that makes a lot of sense. So now transitioning, you now, start this business, and I'm sure a lot's changed. And one thing I'm really is curious to me is, you're talking about, at the Taktical website, it's bleeding edge digital strategies. And what intrigues me about marketing is that the bleeding edge stuff, it's like it changes like almost every day. So I think there's this balance with like, there's new things every day, and then there's like a core of marketing that never changes. Can you talk about that a little bit, and how you kind of handle that balance of finding the things that are new, and then also like what are the tried and true principles of marketing that are going to be true regardless of whatever tools and technologies are out there?
Cool. Yeah, definitely. So that's definitely one of the biggest challenges of working in this kind of space, is that it changes like so often. It's almost like medicine. So doctors sort of feel this problem too, is that they're so deep in their field that they have to keep studying and learning all the newest drugs and the newest tricks. And so a lot of the best marketers I know spend a lot of time in chats with each other, Skype chats, or on forums, or in Slack. And the new thing is Slack chats. So like inbound.org has one, and there's one called the Online Geniuses that people can try to join. And marketers and entrepreneurs just hang around these kinds of chats, and they ask each other questions. And has anyone ever tried this? And what's the newest thing here? And hey, have you guys seen this? And so we're always kind of toying with like the newest thing, and you have to not be afraid to experiment. So I'm the kind of person that I'll stumble upon something. Let's say I stumbled upon today, a client asked me to take a look at this tool it's a social listening tool that monitors Twitter for certain conversations and then triggers like a response from your Twitter account to then message those people and say, hey, we have a solution for your problem, sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Which I don't know if it'll work. I don't know if it's silly or not, but it doesn't stop me from signing up. I just immediately sign up, and I'm like, well, let's do it. Let's see what happens. And that's really the only way this kind of stuff can ever work, is if no one's got an opinion for you, you just have to try it and see if it works out. And getting creative with how you use things can be really helpful. So I would say that when it comes to bleeding edge, the cutting edge of marketing, things that are new, it's usually some sort of a new platform that no one's tried before, or it's a new technique. Like, one of the things that we do is, like, for example, there's a tool that we use to see how many websites have linked to one of our competitors' websites. It's an SEO thing, right? Search engine optimization. And we actually figured, hey, we could use this tool to see which one of their blog posts is the most popular. And then we could just write about the same topic that they write about in our competitors. And like, that's what I mean by like taking an older tool that's been used for something else and using it for a new angle. Or finding a new way to entice people to refer friends and coming up with clever incentives and stuff like that. For example, we have one client where they have a free trial and it runs out, but they can earn more free time on the free trial if they share it on Facebook with their friends. Right?
Oh, that's interesting.
And so cool stuff like that. Stuff that never really... Sure, go ahead.
No. I like that. And I like what you said, too, and we'll get into this, too, because I think one thing you guys do a lot of is kind of the analysis and optimization and really making it data-driven. And that's where, the experiment, you can always experiment because the data doesn't lie. And so it's not like, it can be pretty black and white at that point. So, it makes sense. Like, why would you not try something and just see what comes back? Even if you think it's idiotic, we'll just see what the numbers say.
Exactly. We do that a lot. We do a lot of conversion optimization. We use a platform called unbounce.com, which is super easy to install on a website. And you can drag and drop designs and test out different headlines and button colors. And you don't even need to know any HTML or coding to do it. It's amazing. And we're able to do 20, 30 tests a month. And sometimes one word or one color or making a button bigger can have 10, 20, 30% reaction rate on the conversions. And it's awesome. Stuff that doesn't really get old, because it was a second part to your question. Excuse me. I kind of went off on this tangent.
No, I mean, you're hitting on it. I mean, it's just the fact that, like, whatever you experiment with, have data to back that up, and it tell you whether the experiment works or not.
Yeah, we're big on that. We do that kind of stuff all the time.
Sounds good.
But stuff that doesn't get old is like the running like search ads and search optimization and running display pop-up ads, that stuff's forever. Like that's just like it might change in terms of its little techniques or the technologies, but running an ad will always run it. You can always run an ad on like a right place, and you could always send an outbound email marketing. Like that just always works. It just people give up on it, but it really does. It really works fantastically. We do it all the time.
So yeah, that leads into something I really wanted to ask you about. So when you put yourself out there as, you know, digital marketing experts, and we're going to get you leads, get you users, help you with the strategy, how much do you like? Can you talk through that process? And also, I'm wondering, do you get a lot of where people, they just want the new thing, like, oh, what's this new cool tool and strategy, and you kind of have to say, you know, let's have a strategy that gets results. Like, can you talk about that process and where people go wrong when they think in terms of their digital marketing?
I think that the biggest problem people have with their digital marketing that I've noticed is that there's this assumption that it sort of runs on its own. You know, you ask people, well, what do you do for your digital marketing? And they say, well, we post on Facebook, when we put keywords into our blog posts so that they rank better on Google. We blog a lot. And like, so, you know, people blog, you know how many blogs there are in the world? I forget where the exact number, but something like 1 billion new blog posts a day or a week are posted. It's obscene. It's so many. You're crazy if you think that just posting in your own little world is enough. You have to reach out, right? And you have to engage, and you have to, you know, digital marketing is labor intensive. It's very labor intensive. It requires a lot of studying and a lot of going out there and like posting your link on as many places as you can and getting involved in discussions and actively reaching out to social influencers and partners who can help promote. And one of my favorite shortcuts in all of digital marketing is like finding someone who's already got your audience. Let's say you sell socks, like really cool, fashionable socks, right? Why wouldn't you call on a model or a popular Instagrammer or like a teenage social media star and offer them a piece of the pie or offer them a cut or pay them outright cash and let them do the promoting for you? They've already got the audience. People are already listening to what they have to say. Why should you spend all that time and money trying to reach an audience that's like well on their way? You know what I mean? With someone else. So that's one of my favorite shortcuts, and that's what I feel like people don't do is they kind of wait for the audience to come to them almost, which is almost silly in a way.
Yeah, that is a great point. I like the way you said that, and that it's an active process. It's not a, you know, laid back thing, or you set it once and then you just kind of watch the results trickle in. It's active, and even the socks example is great too, because it goes to something strategic where it's not so much about the tactics, it's about like, what do you have and where is your audience? And then marketing is just like, how do you get in front of them? So, you know, in the process you go through, I know the strategy is really like up front. So can you explain how, like what are the steps and what's the process you take people through to help them get a handle on the strategic part of their marketing and not just the tactical part?
Well, that's a good point. I think that, you know, we call ourselves tactical because we pride ourselves on execution, but of course strategy plays into a lot of this stuff, like the grand thinking. And usually what the thing that's most important in that area is really putting a lot of thought into who you are and what you stand for as a company, right? Mm-hmm. Not just, well, what you sell, but like how do you make people's lives better and why you need to exist. And that's the initial thing that you need to focus on, because everything else will stem from there. And then you can make decisions about, you know, we could do this kind of marketing, but it's off-brand and it's not appropriate for who we are. And you'll only make those kinds of calls when you've decided on who you are, right? If you don't know who you are, then you'll never make those decisions correctly. And that's the first place I like to start usually, is to define who they are and to be able to select which marketing channels would probably be the most appropriate for their demographic and for what they're selling. And also, one of the more important things is how much money do you earn from a new customer? And if it's a certain number that's really low, say each customer is worth only a couple of bucks, then certain kinds of marketing is priced out, right? Because it's too expensive. You can't pay $5 per click on Google if you're going to earn $3 for every new customer you get.
Right.
You have to find some alternative, cheaper way of getting a customer.
Yeah, I like that. And so bringing it back where you talk about, the data, that if you don't understand your data, how can you really have a handle on your marketing? And I would guess, so, we talk about the problem number one being people are just kind of passive with their digital marketing and not very active. I'd say probably the second problem is that because a lot of people aren't data driven, what they'll do is like try something for 1 month and then it won't work. If I go, oh, that's not working, and then they'll move to the next thing. And what you're talking about, I really makes sense to me, because it's like you have a strategic kind of goal in mind, and then you actually follow through on something and get data and understand what works well. So can you talk about, I know this is a bit of a broad question, but I think you'll tie it in with the way you guys work. How does data drive the marketing process that you put people through, and then where do people go wrong in terms, like, do people typically not even measure, or are they measuring the wrong things? How do you walk them through a way to like simplify their data and use it in a way that makes some real sense?
Oh yeah, it's all the time. They don't check. I can't even tell you how many times I've had a conversation. Hey, so how much traffic does your website get? Oh, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Happens. It's common. Usually, there's different platforms that you can use, reporting platforms that people like to utilize. Visualization of data is usually the easiest way to kind of absorb it. And so we have our own reporting that we use, but there's an app that I love. I want to Google it real quick so I can find it.
Go ahead.
There's like a visual, like a marketing dashboard kind of thing, and there's domo.com, which I actually, and Gecko Board. So Gecko Board is really an awesome way to do this. So a Gecko Board has these little like modules or widgets that you can put in, and they'll connect to your MailChimp, your email marketing, and your Google Analytics for your web marketing, your web stats, and your Google AdWords for your ads, and it'll feed all this stuff into like this visual dashboard. And what I've seen a lot of our companies, our clients do is they'll put the Gecko Board full screen on a television monitor and just let it like run. And like the TV just hangs over the office and people can walk by and see traffic's going up and sales are going up or they're going down or whatever. And one of the biggest problems with data is that usually it's disparate, right? So on like one hand, you've got web traffic, and then on another platform, you've got email marketing, on another platform, you've got invoices or sales tracking or whatever, and they don't correlate. They don't speak to each other. And so finding one of these dashboards or one of these things that kind of brings everything together into one place where you can just look at it all at once and kind of absorb like the holistic view of your business is really important. And I think people lose that a lot because it's just hard to bring all that data into one place because it doesn't exist right now.
Yeah, I think that's a great tip, because I think you're right. Like the people that don't have data, it's not because they're like averse to data. It's because like, where do I even start? Or like, how do I even see these things? And if I go to Google Analytics and know how much traffic I have, like, what do I do with that? And it's like, if you actually can translate it visually into something that it gives you a goal. I mean, like part of what we do as Kahuna Accounting is we say like we want to give entrepreneurs a scoreboard. Like we're competitive. We want to see that we're winning. Do you feel like that's a component in it too? That like seeing that dashboard, like, okay, here's what I have to do. It makes it more achievable.
Yeah, I definitely think that's part of it. I think that the competitor thing is also a big part of it. One of the things I find that really kind of motivates people is looking at their competitors and seeing how much they've grown and kind of using that as a benchmark to judge themselves. There's really nothing better for growth, I think, than having a good competitor. Companies that sort of begin to wade and weaken are the ones that don't have someone who's pushing them and disrupting them. Yeah,
that totally makes sense. So I appreciate all that you shared. So for you guys, like what's the next step in this? You've been at this for a while. You're on top of the things that are new. What's next for Taktical and the things that you guys are doing for the people you serve?
Yeah, Taktical is actually moving in a couple of cool directions. So one of the things that we've been working on for like I'd say like better part of 2014 is sort of almost moving away from this fee-based agency stuff and trying to get equity ownership in some of the startups that we're trying to launch. So, we've had startups come through that have just blown away expectations with the work that we did for them, and one of them actually has a valuation of like $100 million, and we would have loved to have owned a few percentage points in that bad boy. So we're doing a lot of revenue sharing. We're doing a lot of outright equity investment, sort of like a mini incubator in the companies that we work with. So we get in really early. Maybe they're too small to be able to afford our agency fees, but instead we invest in them, give them free service to help them grow, and we own a few points in the company, or we share in the revenue, 50-50 or 25-75 or whatever it is. And that incentivizes us big time to work really hard because we want you to succeed. And I see Taktical growing into sort of like that mini incubator thing where we're providing space in our shared office space, and we're providing different sorts of consulting, and we bring in people like product experts and developers to help our clients grow and acquire users, ultimately, meaning that we become more of an incubator than anything else. And I'm really excited about that.
That's really cool. I like that. And yeah, you're right. The incentive is there. Like, nobody can look at you and say, well, you just did this and you didn't really follow through. It's like, no, we are just as motivated to get leads and sales as you are, believe me. So yeah, that's a cool model. I like that. So you shared a lot about growth, and I like that. And so I wanted to give you a chance. We talked about this before. The audience here, I want, let's learn more of your cool tips. You were talking about a weekly email that you have going out. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I'm actually really excited about it. A couple of weeks ago, it's like 2 months ago now, I started sort of sending out like a weekly email to people who I knew, personal friends and clients and people that I've worked with in the past. It was just like an email of like thoughts and articles that I liked or thought that were cool in regards to growth and marketing. And that kind of evolved as I saw what people were enjoying, and it turned into what I call Elons weekly growth hacks. And I send out like 4 or 5 little 5-minute, 10-minute growth hacks that you can implement on your website or in your business like today to help you get that extra 5% of sales or conversions and like tick up your numbers and stuff like that. So it could be as small as changing your headline to include a number to prove, what you're selling, like, hey, save 30% on your next bill or whatever that is, to what kind of form fields you should be using in a contact form, to little tricks on how to rank better in Google, stuff like that. Really easy stuff. And then at the bottom, I have a couple of more in-depth articles about like case studies about how Etsy grows and stuff. And that's gotten really popular, and we have a couple thousand people on the list now. So I totally wanted to plug it while we were talking today, because I thought that maybe your listeners would get a kick out of that. So
yeah, I think so too.
So people can sign up by going to elansweekly.com. The site is down at the moment. I'm getting it back up, but I think it'll be up by the time this gets posted. So elansweekly.com. That's ILANS weekly.com. And it's like a free sign up. You just give us your email address, and we'll start hooking you up with really cool tricks and stuff like that. And
I love it.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about that. So I hope you join in too, and maybe you can throw out some tips now and again.
Oh yeah, I'm getting in there. I want to get these weekly tips. I've learned a ton from this. This has been really cool. I really appreciate you taking the time. And just to bring it full circle, can you tell people more just where they can find out about Taktical and all you have going on with that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So if anybody wants to like reach out to us and has some questions about their own business, I'm always open to like helping people out, fellow entrepreneurs. So tactical.co is the website, and it's a little misspelled on purpose. Here's a little pro tip for you in the future.
Grammar Nazis don't get mad.
Don't do this in the future. Like, don't purposefully misspell a word for your company name. I thought it was really cool when I did it, like a few years when I was 25. It ain't cool. It's actually quite annoying. So,
well, are you guys stupid? Why would I work with you?
Well, not that it seems that I don't think that people think we did it by accident. I don't think they think we're that stupid. I just think it's annoying to like explain that. Oh wait, no, it's not Tactical. It's Taktical with a K is what it is. So it's TAKTICAL.co. And so it's a little annoying. People are like, wait, is it a K or a C? And we've had some misspellings in the past. So I've learned a valuable lesson that.
Yeah.
Misspell your English words properly when you're naming your company. Don't try to be funky and cool. It's best if you just stick with something easy to remember.
That's great. Well, Ilan, this has been awesome. I will include the link to the weekly email and the site in the show notes. But yeah, thanks so much. I hope everybody will check this out. There's a lot to learn from all your experience in digital marketing.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking to you more in the future.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. I'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the TREPX Podcast. For more episodes, interviews, and business growth tools, please visit trepxgroup.com.